Hi, my name is Carol Whibley and I am a play therapist. Welcome to the parent support presentation for those with children who are booked onto the Explore, Create, Express sessions. This really is intended just to help you get the best out of the sessions for you and your child. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and we will get started. Okay. Okay, so as you know, Learn, Laugh, Play offers all sorts of different subjects, and Explore, Create, Express is maybe a little bit different because it is run by me, who is a play therapist, and rather than a teacher. So I'm not teaching a subject. It's more of a session to kind of help with emotional well-being and to express emotions. So just a quick overview of this presentation. I'll just tell you a little bit about me, an introduction to the sessions, the kind of things that you're going to need, and then a little bit about reflective listening, which is a very specific way of listening that we use a lot in play therapy, and it's how the relationship works in therapy sessions and why it's so effective. And then a little bit at the end about keeping and storing the artwork that your children produce. So as I said before, my name's Carol Whibley. I'm a certified play and creative arts therapist with Play Therapy UK. I was a community artist for 20 years before that, and I still am sometimes as well. I do that work still, and I've worked with all different ages, children, adults, people with dementia, and all abilities. And throughout that time, my main aim with community art has not necessarily been to produce amazing artworks. It's more to encourage people to enjoy creating because it is so beneficial to people. That's my main focus. So with my combined experience from being a community artist and a play therapist, I've designed this course to encourage children just to feel happy and confident in their own skin and to help them to be able to regulate their emotions. I want to be clear that it is not play therapy in any way. Play therapy, it works very much one-to-one and in person. It's not something that will work online, but hopefully your child will feel some therapeutic benefits from doing things on these sessions. So really the main point of the sessions is just to give your child and you, if you would like to, some regular activities. Oh, so sorry. Some regular time to spend a bit of time together, to engage in some fun and relaxing activities. A lot of the things that you do in the sessions you might want to use outside of the sessions too. So some of the breathing exercises can be really useful if your child gets a little bit stressed or a bit worried or can't sleep. Then a lot of the things in the sessions can help with that too. So the structure of each session will be very similar each week with some changes here and there, but so the children know what to expect. I'm so sorry. And can feel safe and know what's going to be happening. Within the structure, there'll be a whole variety of different activities so that hopefully each session will be different and fresh and interesting each week. We will revisit some of the activities later down the line, but by then there'll be slight variations anyway, and your children will be a bit older and they'll see things differently because children change so quickly that even a few months can be very, very different for children. So they can do the same exercise, but approach it in a very different way. The age range is approximately 4 to 12, but it might be suitable for ages outside of this range. So you might want to just try the session to see if it's suitable for your child. Each activity has been thought out carefully, so to really help encourage regulation and a calm state of mind, and to be able to identify emotions, definitely to promote individuality. I'm a great one for making sure that children feel okay with who they are, and also just to build confidence in sharing and creating. So the first thing that we do, and this is pretty much the same each week, but with variations, after we all kind of say hi and everybody's settled and they've joined the group, I ask the children just to go off and find something related to the session. So it's like a kind of little mini treasure hunt, but it will be connected to the theme of the session. And then if they want to, and they usually do, but we definitely have children that really are not comfortable sharing, and that is absolutely fine. They'll never be asked to if they don't want to. So they can show their object to the group and they can tell us something about it. Some children will just hold something up to the camera. Some people are really happy to put their microphones on and tell us a little bit about why they chose it. So this helps us just to get to know each other as a group and find out a bit about each other and to connect. So for instance, I might ask them to find something that reminds them of feeling happy, or it might be find something that really annoys them, or something soft, that kind of thing. So it'll always be something they have to think quite hard about what they're going to find, and it's amazing what they come up with. It's really it's a really nice little part of the session. Then we usually move on to some sort of movement, and this will be really something really simple. I'm not an exercise expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I do know a bit about, you know, different simple movements and stretches that can just help people to kind of wake up a little bit, get rid of some tension. So it might be some arm stretches or some very gentle twists, and we usually do that straight after the first exercise. Sometimes as well, I might do some mindfulness exercises where we concentrate on our senses and how we're feeling different emotions in different parts of the body. And this can just really help children to understand themselves and the way their emotions are connected. And sometimes also we do some affirmations to promote positivity. So we'll write out, or I'll ask them to write out some simple sentences which they can store in a jar or a box. And whenever things maybe get a bit difficult, they can get them out to remind themselves of the way they feel about themselves when they're actually feeling okay. Then we do some breathing, a real simple breathing exercise, just to help them to calm down and ready to focus on the next part. And like I said before, these exercises are often really good if your child is a bit worried or a bit stressed. It can just help them to calm down, and also to help sleep if that's something your child has a bit of difficulty with. So then following on from that, every other week we do a journey into the imagination. This is also called a creative visualization, and it basically I ask the children to just get comfortable. They can lie down, they can sit down, it's completely up to them. And we just go through like tensing up our muscles one by one and relaxing them so that they actually start to feel more relaxed. Again, this is a great thing to do in the evenings when they're trying to get to sleep. It's also a really wonderful way for them to learn new and positive things about themselves. So we basically take them on a really simple journey into a garden, and they can imagine the things that I say as I talk through it. Again, each week it will be slightly different. So it might be something like going into the garden and looking at the flowers and looking at the butterflies, and then maybe climbing up into a tree and meeting an owl. And the owl is very wise and might have an answer to a question that they'd like to ask it. So it's all very much going on in their imaginations, and it's very individual to them. And it's really, really safe and actually can be really powerful. It can be very relaxing. So until they've actually done it, it's kind of quite hard to describe, but it's very safe and effective. And children are so good at it because they're so good at using their imaginations. So each week I will alternate the creative visualization with a therapeutic story. And these stories are very sort of specifically written, sometimes by me, sometimes they're adapted from other stories that are used in play therapy. And they address difficulties such as anxiety or perfectionism, but they also promote confidence and self-esteem. They're all stories in their own right. So even if your child is not having any difficulties at all, they should still enjoy them. And then we go on to create something. And it can be something that links with the visualization or with the story. It could be that it will be very personal to them as it's come directly from their imagination. So they're not being asked to draw something specific. I don't suggest what they create, but I do offer some possibilities, that they could do this or they could do that, just in case somebody is a bit stuck. But the idea is that they take ownership of their own ideas. They could choose to draw or paint or make a collage. They could write a poem. I think one child even composed some music on a keyboard once, which was fantastic. They could make something with Play-Doh or clay. Again, it depends on the materials you have. Please don't go out and get anything special or expensive. It's really not necessary because it's all about just expressing themselves. It's not about, the quality of the materials necessarily. It's just so they can do whatever feels right to them. And we usually have about 10 minutes doing that. I put some music on and they can just create. Then, yes, at the end, I sometimes ask them to share if we have time, if they want to. You do need to stay with your child throughout the session. You can either support them or you can actually join in yourself if you want to. That's absolutely fine. Ideally, you'll find a quiet spot in your house with no distractions. Please sort of turn off the phones and pull the curtains if there's too many distractions outside. Obviously put the lights on if it's too dark, and clear a bit of a space next to the screen. Sometimes they stand up to do the movement exercises, not always, it depends what it is. And the materials that you'll need, as I said before, really the only thing you actually definitely need is some kind of paper and something to draw with. It could be pencils, felt tips, biros, crayons, preferably with a range of colours. But again, it's not essential. If you want to, and if you happen to have these things about, like I said, please don't go out and spend money. You can make Play-Doh. There are plenty of recipes online with just using flour, oil, salt, I think, but they are really simple. You can make them and that's quite a nice activity to do in itself. Obviously you can buy Play-Doh, you can get air drying clay. If you've got some scissors and some old magazines that can be cut up, that can be good for collage with a bit of glue. Any craft materials, glitter, pom-poms, feathers. Occasionally I will ask if you can have something very specific, but I always try and make that something that's quite easy to get and it's not always necessary to have it. And that will always be in the group where you go to log on to the Zoom session. The information of anything that you might need will be there. So just a little bit now about reflective listening with your child. Now, this might be something that you already do. It could be that you do it some of the time. It could be that you've not really heard of it at all. And actually, we are trained to do this in play therapy, but it doesn't really come naturally because our whole sort of culture and society and schools in particular are quite directive of children, and we very often sort of either tell them whether they're right or wrong quite a lot. But for this class and for these drawings, it would be really good if you could try and practice reflective listening. So I'm going to go through how that works. So for most of the exercises, your child will follow my simple instructions. They might need your support if they don't quite understand the instructions. So the official definition of reflective listening is it's a special type of listening that involves paying respectful attention to the content and the feeling expressed in another person's communication. And whenever children draw, there is some kind of communication going on. Reflective listening is hearing and understanding, but also, most importantly, letting the other person know that you have heard and understood them. So, to go a bit further with that, it's the kind of listening that's just about being with your child, but with no judgment and no expectations. It's about accepting the child as they are at that moment in time and accepting all of their feelings. So it's very much about, with an artwork, not saying to a child that it's good or that it's not good enough or that it doesn't look like what you think it should look like, or you're expecting it to look a certain way but their drawing doesn't quite look the way. So let me explain. So if they say, oh, I'm drawing an elephant, but to you it really doesn't look like an elephant, it's all about accepting the fact that they think it's an elephant, even though you don't think so, if that makes sense. So the 3 steps to reflective listening are: follow your child's lead, match their mood with your words, actions, and facial expressions, and use statements instead of questions to make observations. So just go into that a bit more. Following your child's lead is just about being with your child and observing, but don't direct or instruct. So just take a step back and allow them to just get on with creating whatever they would like to do. Don't suggest anything, don't instruct in any way, just for that 10 minutes. So allow them to make their own decisions about what to draw, right? What colours to use, which words. So hold off on your opinions about what they should be doing. And then anything they create will truly and completely be theirs. It won't have any input from anybody else. Match their mood. So body language really helps us to demonstrate understanding. Get down on your child's level, just watch their facial expressions, listen to their tone of voice, and then just sort of match them with your own. So stay on the same level. So a child might be getting really irritated with what they're drawing. It might not be working the way they want it to. Rather than going in and sort of offering a solution, or which is so tempting to do with children, I do understand that, but rather than doing that, just acknowledge, notice that they're feeling frustrated, acknowledge the feeling and support them in finding a solution themselves. So you could say, oh, I can see that you're really irritated. Oh, that must be, very frustrating for you. I wonder what you could do. And very often, if you give them a little bit of time, they'll find a solution themselves. And there's a really big difference between somebody coming in and sorting something out for somebody and the feeling that comes from actually finding a solution yourself. And then statements, not questions. And again, I do understand this can be very difficult, but with practice, you can get there. But statements encourage communication and help us to follow our child's lead. Questions can actually inhibit a child's expression, as they might feel that there is a right or a wrong answer. And questions carry assumptions. Statements allow a child to agree or to disagree or to explain. I will go into this in a minute, just with some examples, but it's just about wondering something about their picture, going, oh, I wonder what that might be, or, oh, I can see that you have coloured that red, rather than going, well, why have you drawn that red? If you just make a statement, your child, if it doesn't matter if you get the statement wrong, because your child will always correct you, I can assure you. It's just about saying something and then they have the opportunity to expand on it, whereas a question can just be a kind of yes or no and it stops the conversation. So, for example, let's imagine for a moment that this picture has been drawn by your child. And rather than saying, why is the sky not blue? Because you're expecting your child to draw a blue sky. That could make your child feel that they've done something wrong. So instead, you could try, oh, it looks like you're colouring the sky grey. And because you've noticed what it is they're actually doing, it could encourage them then to say, oh yeah, I'm doing it grey because there's a storm on its way. So you've kind of given them the space to actually expand on what it is they're doing by noticing what they're doing. So let's say further down the line with this picture, they then draw this cloud, and you can focus on the actual what it is they're doing rather than what is actually appearing on the paper. So as the child draws the cloud, rather than saying, oh, this picture is going to look so good on the wall, you could instead say, oh, you're using curly lines to draw now. And the child might say, oh yeah, that's because there's lots of wind. So you've noticed the curly lines in the cloud, and they're kind of trying to tell you why they're drawing like that. Obviously, this may not happen at all, but this is just examples of the differences between the way we respond. Then a bit further on, they draw this tree and some lines and some leaves. So if your child is talking about what they're doing, you could repeat or rephrase what they've just said so that they know that you've actually heard them. So let's say they draw that tree and then they say, oh, I'm going to put in some lines to show how windy it is. You could then say, oh yeah, the lines make it look like the leaves are blowing in the wind. And again, you're just recognizing what it is they're doing and letting them know that you've actually noticed and seen. And it's amazing what can happen when we do that for children. Gone the wrong way, sorry. So then talking about a feeling. So if the child does talk about a feeling, try to validate that feeling, even if you're not comfortable with it. So it's so easy if our children say that they're feeling sad or scared or worried. As parents or carers, it's just the most natural thing to do to want to make them feel better. But it's really important that you actually allow them to feel those feelings and to acknowledge them, rather than trying to change them, because they're more able to find that solution themselves to come out of that feeling. So rather than say the child draws that figure in blue, rather than saying, oh, that person looks sad, why don't you colour them yellow, not blue, and then they'll look more cheerful? You could say instead, oh, the person next to the tree seems sad. The child might then say, they are sad because they're lonely and it's starting to rain. So they've drawn it like that for a reason, and it's part of the story that they're trying to tell in their picture. So rather than trying to say, to change it or to, I don't know, to alter the story or to make it better in some way, you just need to allow them to do and express whatever it is they're trying to express. Helping your child to feel heard and accepted by describing what you see in their picture. So you can make positive statements, but without necessarily saying, oh, it's brilliant or it's fantastic. So you could say at the end, oh, you drew some mountains and a stormy sky with a shining sun. The wind was blowing and some leaves are falling from the trees. There's a person sitting by the tree who's feeling lonely because it's raining. So you're just stating what it is that you see. And then you could add, oh, I wonder what might make that person feel less lonely. And the child might then say, well, now I'm going to draw a rainbow, and that will cheer them up. So hopefully you can see the difference there between trying to actually maybe change something that you're not comfortable with. You just notice everything that's happening in the picture and then just wonder, is there a way of making that person feel better? It could be that your child is expressing their own emotions in a picture. It might not be, but very often it can be just some aspect of themselves that they're not particularly happy with. And by drawing a solution in their picture, they're actually attending to their own needs. I hope that makes sense to you. I mean, maybe just for now, you could just imagine that your child paints this picture. How might you respond to that? Imagine that they're actually painting it in front of you. And then what do you notice about the painting? If you really look at it, have a look at the colours, look at the textures and the way they've actually made the marks. Is there any movement? Are they dabbing the paint on really with lots and lots of energy, or is it quite a smooth, slow, calm kind of painting? What is actually happening in the picture? Is there some kind of story? What do you wonder about this painting? So rather than just looking at, oh, it's a bird, you know, really start to look at the detail and look at the feeling that might be being expressed in that picture. At the end of the sessions, children do have the option of sharing their creations with each other. I do try to make sure I give everyone who wants to the opportunity to share. It very much depends on how many people come to the session. It's not always possible to get around everybody because we just run out of time. But I really do my best to make sure everybody who wants to can. I always try and follow my own advice and offer reflective listening, but online this can be really difficult because I'm not actually seeing the process as it's happening. When the children show their pictures on the screen, I can't always see what they've done very well, and I can't even always hear very clearly exactly what they say about their artwork. So it can be a bit difficult. So it's really good if you, as the parent or carer, can take the time to actually go through their picture with them. Sometimes as well, I forget my own rules and I find myself saying, oh, what a fantastic drawing, because it's just something that we all do all the time. And if it happens, don't worry, you know, we all make mistakes and it's not the end of the world at all. Reflective listening is just something that can be really useful if and when you can manage to do it. When it comes to keeping your child's artwork, it's really important that your child has control over what happens with their artwork. If they don't want to show it to anyone, then please respect their wishes, or they could just share it with their family or friends, or they can even share it. Well, we did have a Facebook group, but now it's the online Learn, Laugh, Play website. Sometimes people share their photographs on there. But also they may not want to share in any way at all. Their creations will be very personal to them. They might not look like a work of art. They may well do, I don't know, but they will be significant to them probably. So it's worth treating them as if they're very precious and valuable. If you don't want those pictures stuck all over your walls, maybe provide a scrapbook, particularly for children that are more private. Or you could just photograph them. If you haven't got room to store lots of stuff, just maybe photograph them and store them electronically. It's also worth mentioning that if your child doesn't want to keep their artwork, that's okay too. It might be that there is a feeling that's represented in their drawing or their writing that they just want to throw away. So even if you feel you want to keep it, you might think it's a wonderful drawing, they might want to just throw it away. You could ask if you could maybe take a photograph before they throw it away, but if they don't want to, then just please respect their wishes. So in summary, the structure of the sessions will be the same each week, but with different activities within that structure. You'll need a quiet space with no distractions and some room to move. So with the reflective listening, just try to follow your child's lead, be led by what they would like to do, match their mood, and use statements instead of questions, if at all possible. I hope these sessions will provide you with some useful tools. Like I said, you can use them outside of the sessions too. I really do welcome your feedback, so please do get in touch on the Learn, Laugh, Play website. You can send me a message there. If there's anything in this presentation that's not clear, or you'd like to know a bit more about, then again, please do get in touch. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope this has proved useful, and I look forward to meeting you and your child in the sessions. Okay, so thank you very much, and I will see you soon. Okay, bye.